Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the Unstoppable Podcast Show, and I am Jennifer Hardy. And today I am joined by Alecia May. How are you doing, Alecia?
I'm great. How are you doing today, Jennifer?
Yes, really, really good. So, Alecia, you've got a really awesome business. You actually run a business called Eventistry by Alecia.
That's right.
Basically, what you do is help women strategize their event and acquire sponsorships. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. I mean, it's so needed today, especially because as entrepreneurs, we're, hiding behind the screens, and the power of a live event is so important to, connect with your group and your community. So I love it.
So tell me a little bit about the ins and outs of organising an event. What kind of things do we all have to think about straight off the bat?
Right. I mean, so the first thing that a lot of entrepreneurs come to me for is knowing the timelines, like understanding how long does it actually take to plan an event, because usually what people think, I always say double that. So if you think it takes 3 months, it actually takes 6. If it takes 6, it takes 12. So coming in fully prepared with a very long timeline so that you can cover all angles of your strategy. So that's the first step in really having a concrete foundation and a plan to have a successful and profitable event.
Fantastic, excellent. And when it comes to obviously things like, sponsorship and stuff, that takes a long time sometimes to push through, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So again, it's one of those fickle things where people start 2-3 months before their event, and in reality it actually takes 12-18 months to establish those kind of relationships. I always like to use the analogy, if you were going on a first date with somebody, you wouldn't ask them to marry you on the first date. You have to really establish and nurture that relationship throughout 6, 12, 18 months, even years. Sometimes when we're understanding what a sponsor needs and what you need, it takes time to kind of align properly, and I call it a magical alignment, because great things will happen, but again, you have to just give yourself that time and that patience. With sponsors as well, it's very much understanding their needs and your needs, and then merging those two worlds together. So the first year, if it's a smaller partnership, and then the next year, typically sponsors would come back with a larger investment, or monetary investment that's worthwhile, that will cover half of your event, or sometimes even the full event.
Yeah, but it takes time to establish that. Yeah, like you said,
Absolutely.
It's just a case of being able to fire off some emails and then expect to get a yeah. Let's work with you. So yeah, no, absolutely. So with the businesses that you work with and the women that you work with, it's not just online, is it? Is it bricks and mortar as well, or?
It's mostly online, and I love working with digital entrepreneurs like us, and they have built their business from behind a computer screen. So definitely that's my niche, but I also do some tech events. So the technology events are very big. They have very big sponsorships, and that's kind of where I got my foot in the door with large companies, regarding sponsorship. And so it's different when it's brick and mortar, because it's more a local effort, whereas this is all digital. You have to be very creative and clever in order to reach out and to, do the sponsorship strategy, because it's very different from going, to the office down the street and presenting something, but now you have to take it behind your screen and do that.
Absolutely. And like you were saying there, so if you're online, you not only have fantastic reach, obviously, though, when you're on the online space, you've got the world to play with. So why do you feel that it is really important for women to get out there and to be hosting these events as, entrepreneurs, as digital marketers, or just anyone on the digital space?
Right. I mean, a human connection, that's all we want in just the psychology of being a human. That's what we want. We crave connection. We crave relatability. We want to see people, have those genuine human interactions. So, for years, everybody, businesses, associates have met for, lunches and social gatherings. So the sincerity to me of meeting somebody in person is way more trustworthy than words on a screen. So you can't argue the value of, that initial face-to-face interaction. And to me, in my opinion, live events really set your business apart from the others. It really allows you to connect with your people, get to that next trust level, and it's a smart investment to me. Yeah. You reach clients, you leave like a amazing, memorable impression, and it doesn't have to be a large scale event. That's what people they're like, well, I have to host a 200 person live event. And I said, well, you can start small and be very smart about it. I love to call it, my coined phrase is deep on a dime, because you can still host a smaller retreat or workshop and still connect with those people. You don't have to do 100, 200, 400 person event. That could be in the future. So event is really a great way to spark interest, expands your business, it gets you noticed. And sometimes it's hard to attract new people online, because Facebook ads, the space kind of gets overcluttered sometimes. Mm-hmm. So I think, to me, it's a really perfect way to just be, stand out and really connect with people.
Yeah, and I completely agree. When you meet someone, it totally changes the dynamic.
Absolutely.
Face to face, obviously. Unstoppable here, I work with clients on the digital space, but then when, for example, we do a retreat or we meet up in person at anything, even if it's just like a one-on-one VIP day, it changes things. There's something
it
really
does
happens. It's like a little spark.
Exactly.
Nice, and it's really awesome. So I completely agree with you there, that there's definitely something that changes when you get a chance to be in front of your clientele or your market, for sure.
Exactly. It's just, it's the immediate connection. Yeah. So, when you meet somebody, it's instant, that instant kind of, I'm looking into your eyes, I can see that you're human, you're real.
Exactly. You're not just an online face. So tell me, I did ask you this a little bit at the beginning, but how can you begin to kind of strategize your own event, whether you are a startup or an established entrepreneur? Is there massive differences between the both as well when it comes to strategy?
So usually, the more established entrepreneur, they have a community, they have a tribe, and maybe they have a bigger number, mailing list, whatever that is. There's still some similarities where you still have to build up your tribe to have that live event, because even though you've got more people watching you, that still doesn't mean that they're going to leave their house out of their PJs to come and meet you, go on a plane, fly. So I would still say there are similar strategies. I would probably say the more established entrepreneur can do a smaller timeline, and the, a more kind of medium startup can do more of a long-term timeline. So 18 months in advance or 12 months in advance, where you're starting off with a smaller workshop. Like I said before, one thing that I always recommend, so if you're thinking of doing an event and you're afraid what's going to happen, how am I going to strategize it, I say start small. So go to your local co-working space. You can rent out a room for $200 or less, and then start locally, right? You probably know some local people in your area. Round them up, see how many, 20 women. I don't think it's probably that much of a stretch to get 15, 20 women in a room where you're, constantly saying, hey, let's come to my event. This is what I'm doing, etc. And over the course of 12, 18 months, I'm sure that you can, fill up that room. The strategy is showing up online for it every day. And not that I mean like pushing people into ticket sales, but actually creating a story and creating a vision for those women that are listening to your posts. So if they can envision themselves in that room, so going to the space, doing a live or taking photos, doing a live about what you're going to get from that and what's the value and what you're going to walk away with. Same strategy applies too for the entrepreneur that has had those or retreats or VIP days or workshops, where you can now take it a little further, perhaps have 50 to 75 women to start in a room. Again, not booking a ballroom that's $20,000, $80,000, but something a little bit more cost effective, and so that you do walk away with 5 figures in your event. And you can do that. That is completely doable if you have the strategy and plan to understand that people do want to walk away from the event. And also some people, will want to work with you afterwards. So it's, commonly known as an upsell, but I always think of it, okay, if you genuinely connected with somebody during that day, during your event, and they want to work with you, it's an authentic relationship, kind of partnership at that point. It's not really an upsell. So having those kind of different strategies and tweaking them a little bit is really going to set you up for the best possible result and so you're not losing money. I hear so many entrepreneurs that, quote unquote, lose money during events and only make a certain amount of money. Yeah. Even if you're a smaller, less established entrepreneur, if you identify with that, you can still get sponsorship. That's another crazy thing that I hear. Well, I don't have a mailing list. My mailing list is only 500 people, or I only have 1,000 people on Facebook. It doesn't matter. At that point, you can still generally connect with a company that you believe in and feel for, and nurture that relationship so that when you're at that point, they're in your back pocket. You can reach out to them and say, hey, I have this event that's coming up. It's 50 to 100 people, and I'd love for you to take part. So again, you can start the ball rolling. It doesn't have to be when you're established that you reach out to those companies that you would love to work with.
Definitely. And for anyone that's out there listening just now, I would definitely start to say to you, begin to write down those people that you might think about partnering with, small scale, and then as you grow, like, what's your dreams, what's your missions, what's your ambition? Who would you love supporting you, when you can fill a room with 500 people, I just always love to actually get things right down on paper so that I can see my dreams unfold. So definitely begin to really have a think about that. Obviously, we've been very busy arranging the event for the book launch in London, and then we've got one in New York in January. And you do forget about all these little small things that impact your budget. So something I would definitely say is making sure your budget is like tight. Really tight. And you've got a little bit of cash there for emergencies, because there will always be. Would I be right in saying that for you?
Oh, 100%. Always something. Typically when I fly to events or I'm on site, one of the biggest things for me was printer, like bringing my own printer, because it's like, how much do you need during that day? You think that, having handouts and things, you contracts or whatever. So that printer is going to come in handy. And it's funny that there's so many little last things that you don't account for. So having that contingency where you can kind of dip into that and understanding that there are going to be costs that you didn't think of, or that service fee, or those taxes, or whatever that looks like.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said right at the beginning, it's having that strategy. It's actually knowing, right, why am I holding this event? What is the outcome to be? Because there's definitely events that you can hold that are just a case of growing your audience, but then there's ones that you want to make sure that you're actually, doing that kind of upsell thing and selling from stage and making a profit from. So yeah, I think your strategy has to be, bang on straight away. So what happens? So say, for example, Alecia, I was to come to you and say, right, I really want to do this event, and I have got nothing else in place. I don't know anything else. I don't know where I want to hold it, nothing. Do you help with all of that? Or do you prefer to have someone come to you with a bit more of a plan?
No, so women come to me with really a basic idea of hosting an event, and they are successful. They are wanting to up level. Maybe they have a course, maybe they have a couple of opt-ins, they've run a group program, maybe they haven't. So I assess the business as a whole, and I look at what's the smartest next step for you in hosting an event. Is it hosting a retreat? Is it doing a workshop that leads into an event later on in the year? And, really strategizing, because an event is a massive undertaking, especially if it's a larger scale event. So having it mapped out completely for the next year, what your business is going to do to prepare for that is my specialty. You know, how to show up to sell tickets if when that time comes, how to show up for sponsors, what to do to prepare for sponsors, and how to nurture relationships across your tribe and across your email list and, you know, to your people. So it's not just planning the logistics and planning those, you know, those fun things like booking the venue and going there. It's really prepping your business in advance for that.
Love it. Excellent. So where can we find you? Because I no doubt people want to find out more about you, and they're probably thinking at the moment as well, okay, when's my first event going to be? Because it's so exciting to get this. I know certainly that I want to have a live event next year.
Yes.
Now I know where to come, which is pretty cool.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, where can we find you? Give us your links, and how can we get in touch and things?
Right. So you can find me at Eventistry by Alecia. So it's like event and then ISTRY by Alecia.com. And you can find a whole bunch of free goodies there. I have actually an event planning budget that I personally use for all of my clients. You can download it there. How I set up my Asana board for event planning. So I've got some really great juicy goodies there. But again, it's remembering that there is that strategy and that prep and that coaching before you hosting the event. I really want, you know, people to understand that don't just leap, right? Make sure that you plan, be smart, and, you know, you didn't get here for not being smart. It's just event is a completely different ball game, and treating an event is going to be like a separate business plan.
I love it. Excellent. And what social media wise, like, do you have a Facebook group or anything like that? Sorry, did you say?
Yeah, so my Facebook group is mostly dedicated to nurturing event sponsorships. We do talk about strategy, but usually I go live on my Facebook group, facebook.com/Eventistry by Alecia, where, you know, I kind of get some really great lives in about strategy and budgeting and planning in advance and at the event after sponsorship. So it's a really good place to hang out.
Fantastic, excellent. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you today, Alecia. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Jennifer.
I've definitely got my head in the event.
That's right. Yes.
I'm excited. I really am. Well, thank you so much, everybody out there, for listening as well. I hope you've got some nuggets. And like I said, get that stuff down on paper. Think about what you want to create going into 2019. It's such an exciting year. And yeah, an event has to be part of it, has to be on the cards for you. So you know where you can find Alecia now, and obviously we'll pop all the details below too. But thank you so much for listening, and we appreciate you. Speak to you real soon. Bye.